Okay, last tutorial for today. We're going to cut that infamous little plexiglass window in the front of the saucer on the saucer top. So I'm going to get out of this view 7, 5 to go into orthographic mode Z, and then what the heck. Actually, I didn't have you do this. Let's go to the second layer where we've got our impulse engine. We're going to B and select everything there, because remember we've also got those two little windows here. And move 1. Okay, great. Go to 1, the impulse engine is still selected, so I'm going to deselect everything and go back to layer 2. All right, cool. We can now clearly see where that plexiglass section of the hull is. Later on, actually, not later on. Now, hang on one second. All right, I've got some quick references for you. Alan Sinclair's plans clearly demonstrate where this circular cutout is on the upper part of the saucer, the very forward edge of the saucer hull. This does not correspond to a light that was ever seen on the series, and we're making a screen-accurate USS Enterprise. I'll grant you there was a structure there, and here's what I mean by that. First, however, where are you? I wanted to show you this shot. I knew I had a clearer shot of the impulse engine, and as you can see, at least to me, if I was to draw a line from here all the way to here, this hole is smaller than these two holes. But here's the impulse engine vents, and you can see the overall shape really does conform to what we made earlier. Be that as it may, here is a screenshot from the Blu-ray resolution, the Blu-ray release of the series, the original effects, and here is the spot that corresponds to that circular cutout in Alan's drawings. And so there's something there, but it's not lit. Even this is painted white and is brighter than this. This was certainly not painted white. As a matter of fact, let's take another look. This shot here from the first pilot actually shows that there was a different structure here. And you can't see it really well. So I'm actually going to show you something where they reused the shot. They used this shot several times, pardon me, including in the second pilot where no man has gone before, which I've queued up the Blu-ray resolution, and we're going to... Okay. Man. Boy, it's just not wanting to cooperate with me. Let's go back a little bit. See if I can stop it here. Okay, there we go. So this is actually a shot from the cage where you see the Enterprise approaching from the bottom, and then they went up over the edge, over the top, and into the bridge. Now, they don't complete the sequence here. They lightened it up, and they interchanged it, obviously from what you saw, with lots of cuts to just bright white and a different background. But here's what I meant. There's a different structure here in the very front. Now, actually, I think for the pilot, they really wanted this very center window in the very lip to be lit. And later on in shots for the second pilot, this front center window actually flashes. So you could certainly put a light in there if you want to make a screen accurate second pilot model. But here there's a bump, there's what appears to be, it could be a red line, although I'm not sure, and then there's a rectangular-ish structure in the back. Now that, to me, that's important. That and the fact that this circle appears in that one shot and is made quite obvious when they did their first restoration. But they took the Enterprise apart and cleaned parts, and I think they cleaned off that plastic section. Now, here is, pardon me, Again, I think this is from the shooting of the pilot. You can see that different structure here, the red lines, and then there's a yellow rectangle, and then there's a darker shape here. And they also had a view screen for the bridge that was supposed to be obvious. When that got changed, but let's just hover over these a little quickly. Again, for the first restoration at the National Air and Space Museum, a different angle on it, and they didn't light it this time, but you can see where that little plexiglass circle is sitting. Now, this is how it looked when they brought it in and assembled it for the first time, but they hadn't done any cleanup yet. And you can barely tell that there's something maybe in this area. So I do believe that it was painted over. And I'm going to give you some more quick shots here. Here's where they've cleaned it up afterwards. It's very obvious. Here's where they actually removed the plexiglass. And this is why I think that structure is there. It's right over the three lights for the three windows, the three circles out in the very front. I think that was put there so that after the first pilot, remember the first pilot didn't have any lighting in there. So they just had some painted stuff and maybe some little tiny bumps on it to make it look interesting. But when they started to add lighting, they knew that they might have to go in and literally replace light bulbs. So they cut in that hole and then made a plexiglass cover for it to match it up. So let's go here. Let's actually take a look at some shots from the series. This is a shot from Elan of Troyes. Now, here's the same spot. Do you see anything? Because I sure don't. It is the same color and texture and even has some of the weathering as the rest of the hull. It's there if they have to go in and change the lights, but it's not obvious. That's my point. Here's another shot. I think this is from the Trouble with Tribbles. Again, we can clearly see this area. Certainly no light. It's hard to even tell if there's a structure there. This is a marvelous shot, a little further up. Pardon me. So a little easier to see. But this is from, oh heck. Is that from Cochrane? I can't believe I had such a rough time remembering the name of the episode. Metamorphosis. This is this staggeringly gorgeous shot of the Enterprise. It was only ever used in this one episode. And the Enterprise is basically coming right at you, and you can see the top of the saucer. Again, right there is the spot where this circular cutout corresponds to, and I don't see anything there. It was not meant to be obvious. Here's another shot from Elan of Troyes when you are very close to the saucer front, and again, I don't see anything that is meant to be depicted as a light or even a hatch. It wasn't meant to be there. And we're going to put it there, and you can do whatever you want with it, but I maintain there is no light that is supposed to be in that spot. I don't think it was meant to be obvious. In any case, we'll add something. So Shift S, cursor to center. Make sure that cursor is exactly in the center of our model. Shift A, we're going to go to mesh and pick a cylinder. We don't need this to be so high dense, especially since I'm really not going to do anything with it, but I'm going to make this say 60 vertices, and I'm going to scale it down. All right, so now I'm going to make sure that we get bounding box center. We're going to grab X, move this out here. We can scroll in and see if we can scale this to about what Alan says this is. Grab X and just center that a little better. Okay, so we've got it here. Go to 1. I'm going to grab Z and move this up so that we're just going into the hull. And now I'm going to shift and click on, pardon me, layer 1. So we are definitely inside the hull. If there are any questions, just hit Z and look. Okay, so it's pretty good. Our plug is still selected. I'm going to hit smooth, and then I'm going to go over here, of course, to add modifier, edge split, and apply. Okay, cool. So we've got a nice round smooth plug that we're going to use, and we're going to do like we did when we were cutting our windows. I've selected our hull, Shift D. We've made a duplicate. I'm going to move that to the second layer, and we're going to go just to the second layer with our hull, copy, and our plug. So the hull copy is already selected. We're going to add a modifier, Boolean. We're going to leave intersect, and we're going to pick a selector, pick the selector, and select our little cylinder here. Okay, so that's where the object meets the hull. We're going to hit apply. And now we're going to, what the heck, we'll move this to 1. Let's go to layer 1. All right, so now we're going to pick the hull. We're going to, again, add a Boolean, only we don't want intersect this time. We want difference. Use the selector and pick this cylinder and apply. All right, so now I'm going to highlight the cylinder. We're going to move this. We're going to get this the heck out of the way. We've now got a hole cut right into our beautiful ship. And I'm going to go out here to the second layer. I'm going to right mouse click on this, move to layer 1. Okay, so here we are back at layer 1. I've got a hole cut out. Deselect everything. You can't see it on my model. It's there. So if I wanted to light it or do something ridiculous, I could. I could even depress it down just a little bit so that you would see that there was something. Hang on. Let's, as a matter of fact, what the heck? I'm going to grab that one. Grab Z. Move that down just a fraction of an inch. Z. And then, okay, so if I was to render out a picture on that, you might see that something's there. But I actually don't want it. I want it. I've raised it back up, so I've got it. If you want to ask whether or not I've got that hole there in the top center, forward center of our saucer hull, we do. And you could light it if you want when we go into how to add lighting to the windows and such. But that's up to you. I'm certainly not going to. I like my saucer hull as plain as we can get it, and having only the visible details that were there during the course of the production model during the series, during the filming of the series, which was only the first 2 seasons. All right, so we've got most of the major components. 7.5Z. We're going to A to deselect everything, and we're going to add some flashing lights and so on. So Shift A, mesh, UV sphere. 32 actually isn't going to cut it, so I'm going to take this to 60 just in case we do any close-up renders of these flashing lights. So we've got bounding box. If not, make sure you pick bounding box here for our. We're going to make changes to this, and I don't want them tied to the center cursor. Grab Y, move this right over this light here. Okay, and now we're going to scale it down. Okay, we can get a close-up of this. So not quite right yet. Scale and make it just about what Alan shows here. Grab Y. It's about centered. Okay, cool. We're going to go to 3 and look at this from the front. Okay, so not quite right. We're going to grab this, move it up here. Scale. All right, cool. Now, if we go to Z, this is all faceted. We're going to smooth shade it. Okay, great. So now, 7. We're going to change our pivot point to the 3D cursor. Shift D to duplicate this light. And then we're going to rotate 180, enter. So now we've got 2 of these lights. I'm going to go to 3. I'm going to pick our original light here, off on the side. Shift D. Grab Z. Move it down. I'm going to go to Z so that it's transparent. I say Z a lot in Blender. How about that? Grab Y. Kind of center it up here. Whoops. Get to bounding box center. Scale. Grab Y. That's centered up pretty well. Grab Z. All right, not too shabby. 7. Shift D to duplicate it. Rotate 180. Let's go to 3 and make sure we have 1 on each side. We do not. 7. Rotate. Oh, bounding box center. Duh. Let's go back to 3D cursor. Rotate 180. 3. And now we have something round corresponding to where we have flashing lights in all the major spots. All right, cool. We're going to add a couple of more, but they don't have to be quite so high poly. 7, Z, A to deselect everything. Make sure our cursor's in the center. Shift S, cursor to center. Shift A, we're going to add a UV sphere. We're going to bring this down to 32. I see no reason to make it any larger. Now, grab Y and move it out here by our other light. I'm going to go to 3. Scale it down. Whoops. Now, bounding box is the correct one. Scale, move it down. And let's zoom in on Alan's plans. And we've got 1 on top and 1 on the side. Now, I don't think we ever actually saw these lit. So I'm going to kind of center it there. Scale. That's not bad. So Shift D. Okay, 7. Pivot point to 3D cursor. Rotate 180. Okay, cool. We've still got our original here, and we've got our new one on the other side. All right, so we're going to select our original. 3. Shift D to duplicate it. Let's rotate 90. No, that's, whoops. I don't want to do that. I want to make this bounding box. Rotate 90. Great, cool. It's not where we're going to leave it, but it's still centered, so that's pretty good. We're going to grab G, move it down here to match this light. Put our center of the object on the outer edge of our saucer section. We could leave it like that, but what I like to do is I like to rotate, and then we're going to scale that down. I guess it's just a little smaller than the other one. Okay, cool. So now, pivot center, pivot point back to 3D cursor. Shift D to duplicate it. 7. Let's scroll out here. Okay, so rotate 180, enter. Okay, cool. We go to 3, Z. We've got top and bottom on both sides, top and side on both sides for tiny little lights. Not bad. I think we've got one more major structure to do, and that's the Christmas tree shaped lights. And then sooner or later we've got to cut windows into our BC deck. So maybe we'll do that as well. So let's go to 3, Z, A, select everything, A to deselect everything. And these lights are going to be tiny. So we've got our center here. Shift A, mesh, UV sphere. Let's increase this resolution to somewhere around 50. So it's not real high resolution. We're going to scale this down. Scale. I'm going to grab this and I'm going to move it up here just so that we can get it somewhere near the correct size where it intersects with the hull. Scale. Oops. Bounding box center. Scale. And what I want is I want to match kind of just the width of this thing. So scale. All right, no bigger than that. Now, I'm going to rotate this Z. We're going to smooth that out. All right, and then I'm going to hit Tab. So I can see everything. A to deselect everything. We're going to get real close to this what's going to be a Christmas tree light. And I want to grab that vertex right at the top. Go back to 3 and Z so we can see this. We're going to turn on our proportional editing, enable. And if I hit G and Z, hang on. So grab, and I'm going to, let me scroll out here. If I hit grab, I should see, yeah, circle of my influence. I want to bring this down. Right mouse click, grab, use my center scroll wheel to bring this down. I only want it to affect about, half of what we're doing. So that's going to be, we've already hit G to grab that vertex. We're going to hit Z and push up. Not too much. All right, so not bad. I'm going to hit Tab to get out of that edit mode. We now have a Christmas tree shaped kind of light. I'm going to make sure we're on bounding box center so that we can rotate this. Hang on one second. Okay, I want to make sure this is on bounding box center. It is. I'm going to scale this little light a bit and then grab it, kind of recenter it here. All right, so that's not bad. Let's go to Z, take a look at that. It's been smoothed already. Looks kind of like a Christmas tree light. Okay, 3. Now, I'm going to go back, Tab, and Z, and deselect A, and then select everything, A. Actually, I don't think it's necessary, but I do it anyway. We're going to go to Add Modifier. We're going to do something that I should have done to the other lights too. We'll have to go back and do that individually. But what we're going to do is we're going to pick this Solidify here. Now, that makes a thickness to this. And if you reach over here and you can make things thicker, thinner, you can actually see the inner wall there. And so we're going to make this 0.05, 0.05. Okay, so now, actually, let's make it a little thinner. 0.03? Yeah. All right. So now this has a thickness to it. It's very thin, but there's a definite thickness. We're going to apply. Well, sorry. Tab and apply. So this looks a little funny because it's got an outer and an inner wall. And while we're here, while we're doing this, let's go over to our materials. And we don't have a red glass for blinking lights yet. And during the run of the series, they had definite red and green running lights and some white ones. So we're going to pick new material here. I'm going to call it red glass. And go down here where surface and pick, instead of diffuse, we're going to pick glass. Going to go to color. We're going to make it reddish. And give this a tiny roughness like 0.2. All right, cool. Let's take a look and see what that looks like. I'm going to go to Z. Oh, wait a minute. Viewport color. Let's make that match. Cool. Now that's not bad, but we can't really tell what it looks like. So I'm going to shift and click on the layer with the cameras and the lights. So now we've got a bunch of lights. And right here, we haven't messed with this yet, but method to display and shade objects in the 3D view. And you actually have multiple choices. Right now we're using solid, but I'm going to go to rendered. And out here, let's pick on the camera icon and scroll down. Samples I have set to 500 and preview is 32. I'm going to make this 250. Let's make it 500. All right, so now we've got this light. Well, it's actually not a light. It's just glass, and it's casting shadows where the lights are hitting it. That's actually nice. It's semi-transparent. It's got a wall thickness to it. And if we were to put a light on the inside, this thing would look like it was glowing. So as a matter of fact, let's go back here to, say, wireframe. I'm going to deselect. Oh, no. I'm going to keep that selected, but I'm going to. No, I'm going to. Yeah. All right. Shift S, cursor to selected. So now our cursor's right in the middle. I'm going to deselect the light. There we go. Shift A, and let's add a mesh. We're going to make it a UV sphere. It's going to be very low poly. We're going to turn this back to 32, and it's already centered in our light. So let's just scale it down. Scale it down. Now we want it to fit inside the glass housing of our light, which it does. We're going to go back over to materials, and we're going to make a non-flashing light. So new, here where it says material, we're going to call it non-flash light. Where it says diffuse, we're going to drop that down. We're going to make it emission, and 1's probably pretty good, but we're going to give it 2. Now let's go back to rendered and look at it from any other angle. We can see that there's a light in there. So let's make that 5. We can see that there's something inside glowing, and it's about that, and it's going to light that up when we do real renders. So not bad. If we wanted it to light up more, we could highlight the actual glass shape and change the roughness to something like, I don't know, 0.3, 0.4. All right, and it would show a little more light because it's going to be a little more diffuse. Make that 0.5. And not too shabby. All right, so now 3. Take this back down to wireframe. All right, so now we've got the glass for the light, and we've got the actual light itself. So I'm going to click one with the right mouse click, shift click the light, shift D to duplicate both, right mouse click once. Actually, that was kind of stupid. I also want to grab this bridge, shift S, cursor to selected, because I want to move one copy of the red light and one copy, of the red glass shell, and one copy, shift right mouse click, of the light. Let's go 7. Center on the bridge here. So I've got one copy of each selected. Let's center on the 3D cursor, which we put in the center of the bridge, and that's rotate 180, enter. If we go to 3, maybe move it up a little bit, get out of our perspective view, get some distance from it. Like, we'll never get all that close to the bridge, I don't think, or at least if we're imitating shots from the original series, we won't. And now I'm just going to go to rendered. Now, of course, our lighting for the whole scene is wrong because it's nothing but suns, but you've got an idea of where we're going. So we've got 2 little lights. Actually, that light, that non-flashing light, is way too bright, so I'm going to take this back down to 3. So they were barely noticeable during the run of the series. All right, So that's pretty good. We're going to do the same for the other lights, and then we're going to call it quits for today on the saucers. So 3, 5. Okay, let's zoom in. Arbitrarily pick this side. So we're going to go back to modifiers, add a modifier, solidify, and make that, I don't know, 0.04. 0.03. Nice. Okay, that's cool. Tab. Nope, just apply. Good. We'll do the same here. Add, solidify, 0.03. Solidify, 0.03. And this bottom one, solidify, 0.03. We could actually, I'm pretty happy with this. We could apply this to all of these. Apply, apply, apply. That's already applied. All right, so now I'm going to actually go and I'm going to pick all of these on the other side. One, shift. Okay, so right mouse click, shift right mouse click, shift right mouse click, shift right mouse click, X to delete them. Let's go back to our other side. Oh, first, shift S, cursor to center, select, shift right mouse. Oh, okay, so shift right mouse click, shift right mouse click, shift right mouse click, shift D. A single left mouse click. I'm going to go to 7 here. Pardon me. Rotate. Oh, hang on. Are we? Yep, 3D cursor. Rotate 180. All right, let's take a look at that. Everything is exactly where it should be. Now all we have to do is give these some different colors. So the starboard side, let's pick that. There's always green. So we're going to go to materials, new, call it green glass. I'm going to go down here where it says diffuse, and we're going to pick glass, color. We're going to make it green. That looks pretty good. Going to add a roughness to it, maybe 0.2. And then for viewport color, selector, pick. Okay, cool. Now, this other, whoops, shift S, cursor to center. This other tiny little light here, I'm also going to pick this and pick green glass. All right. But for this one right here and the one on the bottom, we're going to pick white glass. So we're going to make new. So we're going to call it, I don't know, white flasher. No, white glass. Diffuse. White glass. There we go. Diffuse is wrong. We're still going to go pick glass, but we're going to pick a heavy roughness like 0.8. All right, and then we're going to do the same here. So we're going to pick that diffuse white glass. All right, cool. I'm going to go over to the other side, pick the bottom one here, pick diffuse white glass, the side one, diffuse white glass. Now for the top, over here on the port side, these were always red. So I'm going to pick my green glass. I'm going to hit plus down here. And I'm going to rename this to red glass. Get rid of the dot 001. Okay, cool. Where the color is here, I'm going to pick this. I'm going to pick red. Cheated a little more towards the orange than the purple. Something like that maybe. All right, that's pretty cool. We're going to go to viewport color, selector, duplicate what we see here, pick this tiny one, and red glass. Okay, cool. If we go to our front camera, select it, Control 0, and render. I'll show you when it's done. Okay, we have rendered out an image from the front. Whoops, sorry. And we can see that this is now transparent and green and transparent and red. If we were to put lights underneath them, we could make them flash or just turn on the lights if we're going to do nothing but make single images. If we're going to do movies, we would want to animate the lights inside. We see the lights for the bridge windows, the little red bridge windows, and it's not looking bad. I'm going to do another angle. Let's see here. F11. Let's go choose. Wow, this is big. Bounding box center. Scale. Oh, no. Yeah. Scale's not going to hurt anything, I don't think. 0, Control 0. Right. This is that imitation of the Corbomite maneuver shot. Let's grab X, move it forward a little bit. All right, that's not bad. Fills the window. F12, and let's see what it looks like when it's done rendering. Okay, not bad looking. We don't really have the sampling in place for glass. I like to have it well over 1,000, at least 1,000, for getting good looking glass. We don't have any flashing lights in there. We've got the lights for the two little bridge lights. We've got our linear accelerator with its vanes. We've got the impulse engine with the black windows. We could always cut those out and replace it with an effect in back, or put something like a diffuse glass in there so we could turn on a light on the inside for animating or whatever we want. If we look at it from the bottom. All right, so I threw in another camera, angled it slightly to the starboard side and angled it below. And if you've been able to follow my instructions, if I've not been too circumspect, if it's been easy enough to follow, we now have pretty much all the major structures for the primary saucer in place. We have a bunch of windows. We have the sensor discs on top and bottom, so for the bridge and the planetary sensor, the support platform for the planetary sensor, the quote triangles, which are actually rectilinear. We've got the impulse engine in the back, although we have to add where we're going to put textured cloth. We have the linear accelerator with its vanes, the BC deck, the bridge lights, and the little tiny bridge sensor dome collar. All in all, not bad. We still have texturing to do, and we'll add lights and rooms and flashing lights for the flashing bulbs on for the running lights. But for right now, we're going to call the primary saucer done, and then we're going to move on to something else. The next one will probably be the neck, also called the dorsal connection, and that'll be next time. So we'll do the neck next tutorial. Thanks, and thanks for sticking with it.